I never gave much thought to the homeowners association, probably because I wasn't part of it. Never signed up, never wanted to, and I sure as hell didn't need some clipboard-wielding busybody telling me what color my barn should be or how short to keep my grass. My land was my land. Period. End of discussion. At least, that's what I thought. You see, this farm's been in my family for generations. A good stretch of land, rich black soil, and that kind of wide-open space that makes you feel like you've carved out your own little slice of freedom. I worked it the way my old man did, and the way his old man did before him. Unlike the pristine, cookie-cutter houses over in Willow Creek Estates, the HOA-controlled neighborhood that sprouted up next door, my place had character. And in HOA terms, that meant it wasn't up to code. For the most part, they stayed on their side of the fence, and I stayed on mine. We kept it civil. That all changed when Beverly showed up. I don't know what her real name was. Maybe it was Beverly, but nobody said it. They all called her Bev. Even the other HOA folks whispered it behind her back like it was an accusation. She was the kind of woman who believed the whole universe ran on her schedule. And if it didn't, well, she'd file a complaint until it did. Self-appointed queen of Willow Creek. HOA president. And, apparently, the neighborhood expert on what was best for everyone. Which is why, on a quiet Saturday morning in early May, I found a small army of HOA residents setting up folding tables and lawn chairs on my land. At first, I thought I was seeing things. I just finished replacing a tire on my tractor and was wiping my hands on a rag when I spotted them through the line of maples. Dozens of people dragging coolers, grills, even one of those big inflatable bounce houses. It looked like they were setting up for a damn county fair. I strolled over as casual as you please. "Something I can help y'all with?" I asked. A man wearing a salmon-colored polo and khaki shorts turned toward me, balancing a plate stacked with what looked like deviled eggs. "Oh, we're just setting up for Willow Creek's annual community picnic," he said, smiling like I was supposed to be impressed. I raised an eyebrow. On my farm, a woman wearing an oversized sun hat that flopped over her sunglasses stepped forward. "Oh, don't be so dramatic," she said. "It's just a little event. The kids need space to play, and your land was the perfect spot." She smiled as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. "It's not like you're using it for anything important today." I took a deep breath. "This is private property," I said evenly. That's when Bev gave me the kind of condescending smile you give a toddler who's just learned the word no. "I checked," she said sweetly. "There's no fence and no signs that say no trespassing. That means it's fair use." I stared at her for a good 3 seconds. "That's not how property laws work," I said. "Well," Bev said, waving her hand like she was shooing a fly, "if you have such a huge issue with it, why don't you just join the HOA? Then you could participate in all these lovely community events." I nearly laughed. "You've got 5 minutes to pack this up," I said, "before I call the sheriff." Bev scoffed. "Come on. We do this every year, and the previous owner never complained." "I'm the previous owner," I said. Her smile faltered just a hair. The man in the salmon polo cleared his throat. "Maybe we should." "No," Babe snapped. "We're not moving. This is a neighborhood tradition, and we have rights." Oh, that was rich. I had to bite my tongue to keep from laughing. Instead, I nodded. "All right," I said. "Y'all enjoy yourselves then." I turned around and walked back toward my house. Not to sulk, and not to let it slide. Hell no. I had a phone call to make, and I knew just the man for the job. Frank Maverick Dawson was an old buddy from my Air Force days. We flew missions together, raised hell in bars halfway across the world, and when we got home, I settled into farming and he went into crop dusting. Ran a tight operation, too, treated fields with fertilizers, pesticides, and more importantly, the kind of dye that'd stain anything it touched for a good long while. I scrolled through my phone contacts and hit call. He picked up on the second ring. "Well, I'll be damned," Frank said. "Haven't heard from you in a while. You finally decide to come out of retirement." "Not today," I said, grinning. "But I got a little job for you." I explained the situation. By the time I finished, Frank was laughing so hard I thought he'd drop the phone. "So let me get this straight," he said. "Some HOA weirdo decided your field was their personal park, and they refused to leave? That's about the size of it." He whistled low. "Well, I've got a tank full of bright green irrigation dye I was going to use tomorrow. Be a real shame if I accidentally used it up today. I chuckled. Hate to see you waste it. How soon you need me in the air? I peeked out the window. They were still out there, setting up tables and tossing bean bags like they owned the place. 10 minutes too soon. Frank laughed. I'll be there in 5. By the time I stepped back out on my porch, Frank was already a hum in the distance. The Willow Creek party was in full swing. Bev was holding court at one of the tables, sipping some overpriced lemonade. Kids were running wild, dogs were chasing frisbees. One of the men was manning a grill that smelled like overcooked hot dogs. They were settling in. It was obvious they planned on staying a while. The drone of Frank's crop duster was faint at first. Nobody paid it any mind. Then the plane came into view, low and steady, and people started to notice. Is that a plane? Someone asked. Oh, it's probably just a crop duster, Bev said, not bothering to look up. She should have. Frank swooped in low on the first pass and hit the release. A fine mist of vivid green dye sprayed down over the whole picnic like a monsoon. Within seconds, people were screaming. Folding chairs toppled. Coolers tipped. A guy with a plate full of potato salad dove into the bounce house, which promptly deflated under him. Bev shrieked, waving her arms as if she could somehow hold back the downpour with sheer indignation. Frank made a second pass, just to be thorough. By the time he was done, it looked like a bunch of Shrek impersonators had hosted a block party. Everyone was drenched in green. Men, women, kids, even the golden retrievers. They were all streaked head to toe, faces frozen in shock. I stood on my porch with my arms crossed and watched. Bev stormed up toward me, her once white blouse now the color of a frog. What have you done? She shrieked. I shrugged. I checked, I said. No fences, no signs. Fair use. Her jaw worked, but no sound came out. Around her, the HOA folks were scrambling to pack up. One dad tripped over a lawn chair and face-planted into a pie. A toddler burst into tears as his mom dragged him away, both leaving green footprints behind them. That stuff won't wash off, I added helpfully. It's designed to stick through rain and wind. Y'all are going to be green for weeks. Weeks? Bev screamed. Yep, I said cheerfully. But hey, on the bright side, you'll stand out at your next meeting. By Monday, word had spread. You can't walk through Willow Creek Estates, covered in green, without people noticing. Some of the other HOA board members were still stained, despite scrubbing hard enough to peel paint. Bev tried to cover up with scarves and hats. It didn't help. At Java Hut, the barista labeled her cup Matcha Queen. She didn't think it was funny. Greg, the guy in the salmon polo, showed up to work and got mistaken for a mascot. One of the teenagers refused to come out of his room for 3 days. And me? I just kept on farming. Weeks passed. Bev never stepped foot on my land again. Hell, I saw her cross the street once just to avoid walking too close to my fence line. And that, my friends, is how you out HOA the HOA. They called it the green baptism. Some of the local kids even turned it into a ghost story. If you step on Old Man Parker's land, they whispered, the sky will open up and turn you green forever. Dramatic? Sure. But around here, it's practically gospel.